Okay. Thank you, Emily. I'd like to just start off a little bit about myself first. I'm Heidi Smith, a Greenwich resident for the past 17 years. My husband, Scott, and I started a small investment firm here in Greenwich in 1994. And we continue to run it as a team with 5 employees on the top of Greenwich Avenue. We have 2 children here, attending both the public and the private schools in town. My son, who is 14, is at Greenwich High School, while my daughter is at Greenwich Country Day. We have taken advantage of so many programs here in Greenwich, to name a few. And as my son pointed out, I made a list of some sport events, and he told me I missed American Legion before I walked out because he was reading my speech. But I think what we have done is we've really cross-sectioned between the availability of activities, both recreational and artistic. We have been privy to events in the both public and private venues through schools that we've done. And through these activities, as a resident, as a participant, and as an active community member, I see the need for the Greenwich Center for the Arts, a facility that will unify the town with high-quality spaces for art, for dance, for lecture, film, and performing arts. We don't have it now. When the Smiths stay in Greenwich for concerts or for theater, we attend wonderful performances that are usually designed in places that were for other purposes. They have significant restrictions on them and are generally dispersed and of poorer quality. And in my heart of hearts, I ask myself, why can't a community the size of Greenwich sustain a vibrant arts facility in a centralized location for all of its talented residents? Why can we not have a facility where all our children could participate? And why can we not grow the opportunities for our in-town talent and our out-of-town talent to offer classes and performances to Greenwich residents of all ages who cannot or will not travel further afield for their artistic endeavors? And why can we not transform at the same time a building with historic significance to a resource for the enjoyment of all of the community? This is the opportunity. And to this end, the board of the Greenwich Center for the Arts has spent the last year researching art centers, art facilities, and finally, the business of art to develop a business plan that understands the sources of our income for such a center, and one that lays out all the expenses, understands that with the goal of being financially stable. This is our gift for the town, the stability, financial stability of a program. The goal is to be break-even in our business plan, which is about a 50-page document and available by request, in the 3rd full year of operation. Can you move to slide 2, please? We started by analyzing our early assessment, started in 2004, and enlarged our universe. And we analyzed Greenwich Arts Council's programming, the top floors that Emily referred to, in the Old Town Hall. The activity level, the demand, our interviews showed, were basically a desire for better spaces and higher quality spaces. We spoke to teachers, students, administrators. We evaluated other Greenwich venues, attended events, met with leaders of various organizations, understood their business and the capacity for those businesses to pay what we thought we needed to run the building. We needed to understand individual businesses. Every business in our building basically runs on a slightly different business model. Some are non-for-profit organizations, for example, the Art Society. And then there's others, for example, some of the dance programming that are strictly for-profit venues. We need to understand their ability to pay to make this a success. We built a model that incorporated many different variables. There's one variable called Greenwich decision time, let me tell you. I think we all know that things take longer than we want in Greenwich to happen, so we built that in. We also basically plan for the normal inflation, being adaptable to changing programming needs, and understanding that our uses for some of our rooms might change. The radial chart here, I think, is a really nice snapshot of understanding that we really are the sum of the parts. It gives me the opportunity to point out the differences in some of the programming. For example, a reoccurring income from a weekly art course must be looked at totally different than a performance by a group that is for 2 weekends. We have to look at each business separately. An office leased by a non-for-profit group full-time is definitely different than a music school, who's using a different number of rooms, practice facilities, the recital room, and various offices. So we need to take into account all these differences. And I exemplified this by color-coding this, and to show you that some things are short-term, lecture, performing arts. We have longer venues, which would be film, the cafe, the pottery studio, the offices, and things that combine both short and long, which are dance, visual art, and music. We did a search about art centers, looking to find one just like ours. We checked the county, we checked the tri-state area, and we checked the nation. And what you really find is restricted by parameters of existing buildings, architecture, understanding the needs of the user base, and the spectator community. There is no equal. We are the sum of the parts. And I think that's very important for everyone who looks at our model. Our revenue sources for this to work are 3, and I'm going to be brief. In the financial model, we have 3 sources, and we have the 50% that we anticipate will come from earned income, the usage of the building, and what it will take. And we went to every different room, and we assigned, and we looked at price points for that room, we assigned it usage levels, frequency. Then we looked at normal lengths of stay, we looked at commitment levels, and we sort of decided what would be long-term and short-term. One of the primary goals was to understand the concept of the pricing matrix. And I want to allude to this as we've really looked at this, is that we're going to price the space basically to benefit, to recognize users such as the non-profit groups and what we would call the resident group. Obviously, there would be different pricing for Greenwich users, user to use the space versus somebody from out of town. And I think this is very important because this is where later on, who we're going to mention, the $1 a year lease, which has been much talked about, is very important. This concept will work in very different scenarios, but it will cost the non-for-profit and the smaller group to be priced out of the model if it's not done at a subsidized situation. This will work under 2 scenarios, and the town has to make that decision of, is this for the community or is this just another model? And the next slide, please. The other 2 components are pretty self-explanatory. Like every other non-for-profit organization, especially in Greenwich, we're looking at 35% coming from contributed income, and our endowment is estimated through the 5th year of operation at 15%. And then the combination for contributed income would be similar to what we would find at different venues that we would have. It would probably be a membership model. There'll be annual events. There'll obviously be some founders' monies. And so that pretty much follows what we see at other non-for-profits in town. And that is, we researched that extensively. The endowment income we have in our capital campaign, we have built in to start the endowment at $5 million. I would hope that this will be increased by the energy and the interest in this program. And with that, I'm going to segue into Mr. Peter Malkin, who is going to walk us through the capital campaign part of the model.